vejo o vosso nome, venha a nós o vosso reino, seja feita a vossa vontade, assim na terra como no céu, assim na terra como no céu. O pão nosso de cada dia dai-nos hoje, ó Senhor. Perdoai as nossas dívidas, assim como perdoamos aos nossos devedores. Não deixeis cair em tentação, mas livrai-nos de todo o mal. Não deixeis cair em tentação, mas livrai-nos de todo o mal.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome again to another transmission from the United States Spiritist Federation. We have been meeting every Saturday, bringing guest speakers to talk to us, to present their aspects on Spiritism. Today, we are very happy that we have our friend Alex Alves with us from Florida. But as always, we are going to start with our prayer, and then we will do the introduction of Alex, and after that, he is going to be giving us his talk. So I invite you all to join me in our prayers. So we elevate our thoughts and our hearts, asking protection and guidance from our Heavenly Creator, that we may feel through His love the presence of the benefactors that have been assisting us in this work, in this initiative of bringing even more knowledge and understanding about His laws. May we feel protected all the time, and may our guest speaker, Alex, be protected throughout his talk. And we ask permission to start this work. So, Alex is a worker and general coordinator of the Plenitude Spiritist Society, Kissimmee, Florida, and is a board member of the Spiritist Federation of Florida, active in the American Spiritist movement in the last 15 years. But above all, Alex has been a great friend and partner in all this work of dissemination of Spiritism, and also dissemination in Spiritism in English. And he is very dear to us, very dear to our heart, and we are very happy to have him here today. And I'm sure all of you that will be following this presentation will be really able to get to know Alex a little bit, in case you don't. So Alex, thank you so much for being here with us, from doing this presentation to the United States Spiritist Federation. And now it's with you.
Good morning, Jusada. Good morning to all of our friends that are joining us at this moment. It's technology is something that we are really amazed in this, especially in the last few months with all of this COVID-19 going on. Even with the distance, the physical distance that we are feeling from one to the other, we also can get together with this technology, using these resources that we have to try to connect ourselves through minds and through hearts, so we can try to cope together in this moment and learn a little bit more what Spiritism can add to our lives. Thank you so very much for the opportunity. Thank you so very much for the invitation and the a chance to be working on the Spiritism doctrine. Thank you so very much. Today, we're going to be just talking a little bit as a way also to understand what's going on with us at this moment and how we can take the best teachings and lessons out of this pandemic situation, we're going to be talking a little bit about restart and rebuild, which is based on the Spiritist book, Law of Destruction. If you look a little bit further back, and not that long, maybe 6 months ago, there was a lot of things going on with our planet, on this earth. We had back in November, December last year, we had all those fires in Australia. We had volcanoes in New Zealand, which is something unique. We never heard about volcanoes going on in New Zealand. We had some earthquakes in the Caribbean, Cuba and Puerto Rico. They were shaken by earthquakes, which also was never heard about it. And then finally, at the beginning of the year, we had all of this pandemic situation, the COVID-19 going on and affecting all over the world. So when we look into all these facts together, we say, whoa, the end of the world is really coming. It's really near. But is that so? If you would think about this wonderful work of a creation, God's creation, is the world actually coming to an end? What is going on right now? What all of these happenings means to us? So what are the teachings that we needed to learn from these misfortunes, let's put it this way? And how can Spiritism help us to understand what is going on and what is expected from us? We cannot forget, but one of our main roles as incarnated beings is to somehow contribute to God's creations on this world. We are also co-creator on a minor plan, on a very specific role that we can fulfill, but we also have our missions and our role to contribute somehow to a better world, to construct a better world for the future as well. This is this explanation is in the question 132 from the Spiritist book. What is this incarnation for? How can we use the incarnation on Earth, and what are the purpose of the incarnation? One of the purpose is to learn, is to evolve. The other purpose is to contribute to God's works. So, with all of this going on, how can we contribute to God's work? What we can do, and what is expected from us as next steps from us. Before we go any further, let's try to okay, jump. How do I? Maybe I gotta go over here. Let's try to understand what is the purpose of the law of destruction. Law of destruction is on the chapter, on the third part of the Spiritist book on the moral laws. And question 728 asks this: is destruction a natural law? Well, the answer from the Enlightened Spirit is everything must be destroyed to be reborn and regenerated. What we call destruction is only a transformation that aims at the renewal and the improvement of living beings. So when we look at this, in nature, nothing is created, nothing is lost, everything is transformed. There is no good that always lasts, or evil that never ends. Every end has its beginning, and every beginning has its ends. So our lives, the existence, the solo existence of ourselves, it's a constant transformation since we were born until we pass it away, until we leave this body behind. Everything is a constant transformation. A moral transformation, a physical transformation, and an invited transformation. But in order to transform, in order to create something new, we must destroy what's currently built. In order to build a better house, a bigger home, we have to destroy what we have so far so we can build something bigger and better for the future. As our life is as an eternal movement or move from progress and destruction, we can relate to, for example, the proper discarnation process that we face when we are alive. It's the law of destruction in plain activity. It's when we destroy the body that we are using today, leaving it behind so nature can use those components from our own body to create new things to the future. The volcanoes in Hawaii, it's another example on a constant destruction and reconstruction of nature. When we first look at the volcanoes, for example, you can just see and imagine the destruction, the fire, everything that's being lost, homes has been wiped away, families having to be moving it out from their places and everything. So the very first impression that we have, it's the destruction. But if you go back to the same places 5 to 10 years later, you're going to see nature reflourishing, plenty of beauty and strongness. We see the destruction that was necessary in the first step before another thing much better, much well constructed coming up after and on top of that destruction. The ice ages that Earth went through in the last centuries and the last millennia and everything is also helped to shape all the resources that we have nowadays, that we are using those resources and that we are using everything that was left behind by those transformations. So we can come up to the conclusion that the purpose of the law of the destruction is to open the way to the law of progress. That for something to be moving or constructed in a better way, we have to destruct, so we can have an opportunity to evolve, to progress, and to create something better. One of the things that I like the most on these Benjamin Franklin's teachings, you have the 13 virtues from Benjamin Franklin's, which is one of the, on my perspective, one of the biggest contribution that the United States Spiritist Federation made to us a few years back when these 13 virtues of Benjamin Franklin were analyzed, and they are available on the website as well. Benjamin Franklin said, like the cover of an old book with its contents turned out and is scratched and erased, lays here the body of Benjamin Franklin, now serving as food for worms. But the work will not be totally lost, for it will appear, as he believed, once again in a new and more perfect edition, corrected and modified by the author. So this phrase for me encompasses pretty much everything what the law of destruction means and what the progress will bring us in the future. We have to destruct so we can open the ways and we can open the opportunity also for the progress to come on. But how we can see, and relating back to the beginning of our talk, how can we see all of those happenings, the fire in Australia, the volcanoes in New Zealand, the earthquakes in the Caribbean, the COVID-19 that we're going through? These are much more like some calamities. So how these calamities can relate to ourselves nowadays, and how can we learn from them? According to the Spirit's book, question 737, for what purpose does God inflict humankind with the destructive calamities? And the answer is to impel them to progress more quickly. So the calamities, these destructions that we have, it's important so we can wake up for a new opportunity or new ways to find to do things so we can progress and evolve more quickly. Haven't we stated that destruction is necessary for the moral regeneration of spirits who accomplish a new degree of perfection during each new existence? You must see the end in order to appreciate the results. You only judge such things from your own personal point of view, and you regard such as afflictions as calamities because of the injury they cause to you. However, these hardships are often necessary in order to make things arrive at a better order more quickly and to accomplish in a few years what would otherwise require many centuries. So, as we were saying in the beginning, in order to accomplish some progress, we need to destruct what we have so we can build something better in the future. We're going to see a few pictures in a few slides that will bring this perspective in a more clear way so we can understand better what are these calamities and these tragedies represents to ourselves as an opportunity to evolve and to progress. Before we reach those pictures, it's important to say The question 739 says, are destructive calamities useful from a physical point of view, notwithstanding the hardships they cause? It's important, this answer, because when we go through these painful moments, the only thing that we feel, the only thing that we are paying attention is the pain that we are having at the moment. And the answer from the spirits says, yes, they sometimes modify the conditions of a region, but the good that results from them is usually only felt by future generations. I can give a perfect example related for the situation that happened a few years back over here in Florida. I wasn't living over here yet. I was still back in Brazil at the time. But when the Hurricane Andrews came and hit Miami, especially Homestead, on the late 90s, it was such a destruction on that time that no one was prepared for that. So after that hurricane, which we have some amazing and wonderful progress in two fields specifically. One on the science field, because man started to study the impacts of a hurricane, hurricanes, how they were forming, how they could be previewed, how they can anticipate the movements of the winds, the pathway that they're going to be going, so they can try to avoid as much destructions as would be possible. So we have a huge jump on the technological tools that were being used in the time to anticipate what the hurricanes would be hitting, so they can try to avoid the destruction. That's one side of the things. The other side, it was the huge impact that we had on the Florida construction guidelines and codes, because after Andrews, everything changed on the construction code in Florida. Houses, they were no more allowed to be on the wood as their base. They would have to go by concrete. The roofs would have to be attached to the main body of the houses. A lot of other things. Shutters, it was mandatory that the new houses would be delivered with the shutters and already ready to be placed in the shutters in the case of the hurricane to come. So a lot of things changed, but it was just perceived a few years later that tragedy hit the Florida. But it's important to see how these things will impact, will bring progress, and will be felt in the near future. Now, I have a few pictures that I'd like to share about the 2004 tsunami that killed almost 400,000 people in South Asia in 2004. I'm going to be showing 3-4 slides, and for each one of them, the left pictures is always the picture taken a few hours after the impact, after the tsunami, and the picture on your right is going to be always 10 years later, what nature and what man itself created on top of that destruction. And it's important to see how it's the progress and the involvement came after all of that destruction. So on the left side, we have the first picture showing the destruction that we have right after the tsunami. On the right side, you have the same place 10 years later with all the constructions already rebuilt, with a new nature flourishing and these kind of things. I'm pretty sure this over here shows a highway that was totally destroyed by the debris from the trees and the houses that were on that place. On the right-hand side, 10 years later, everything back to normal. And you can see nature, how nature rebuilt itself and reconstructed itself. Also over here, you have this palace that was the only thing left after the tsunami. And 10 years later, all the other constructions and everything. And you also can see how nature recomposed itself. This one is pretty impressive also because you see a deserted land, and pretty much everything that we had over there was destructed. And on the right-hand side, you see 10 years later how man and nature were able to rebuild themselves. It's important to say, I'm pretty sure all of these constructions, all of these new buildings that we can see over here, they were built under new constructions codes, under new technologies, something that would prevent or at least diminish the impact that a new tsunami or a hurricane can come or can cause to the constructions and to the buildings itself. We have a totally new technology, a totally new way to approach how we can keep this balance and this relationship between man and nature on a more balanced way, so we do not affect the nature or the environment that we have around us as much as we are doing in the past. We can build better houses, stronger houses, more solid houses, so we can have the destructions that we had. So a lot of things changed on this. So this is important to see the impact. Usually in the very first moment when you see the picture on the left-hand side, we embrace it. Let's say we embrace it for impact. We feel the impact that everybody else was feeling. We feel the pain that the world was feeling together. We solidarize ourselves. We send help and everything, and we feel the pain. Usually we are not paying attention, or we are not foreseeing what is come in terms of new progress or new things that will be built in the future. We just can see and we can feel the pain for that moment. Once that pain goes away, or actually goes away, it's kind of complicated. I would say that fades a little bit away, then we start to focus in the future and we start to move ourselves towards the new things that needs to be done and need to be constructed. It's important also when we realize the moral teachings that we can bring all of these calamities and all of these tragedies. Question 740 on the Spirited books asks us, couldn't calamities also be moral trials for humankind by exposing humans to the most afflictive needs? And the answer is, calamities are trials that furnish humans with an opportunity to exert their intelligence and to demonstrate patience and resignation before the will of God. At the same time, calamities enable them to develop the sentiments of self-denial, self-detachment, and love for their neighbor if they are not dominated by selfishness. But here's the thing. When we look at the Jesus teachings, do we really need to wait for a calamity or a tragedy to be helping people out? You know, the good in people, it exists, it's inside of our heart. I would say it's almost as something that we have inside of us, but for some reason, and sometimes we do not allow for that spark to shine up on us. We were God's creatures. We were created by God at his image and likenesses. Not as in a human form, but we were created on his image and likenesses, as we see in the book of Genesis, the Mosaic Genesis. But we were created as his image and likenesses with his spark inside of us. As we have that spark, as we have the light inside of us, the only thing that we needed to do is let that spark and the light shine on us. We don't need a reason, occurrence like this to make this spark to shine. We can do this on a daily basis. And actually, for every tragedy that we see around the world, we can see the entire world going together to try to help. The tsunami in 2004 itself, it's a very good example of that. Hours after the fact, hours after the tragedy, we have almost pretty much all the big nations in the world with the most powerful navy fleets. They were sending their ships to the area to help in the rescue of the lost ones, to help on the recovery of the areas, bring medicines, food, water, clothes. The entire world was over there to help. Same thing happened when we have those earthquakes in Mexico. Same thing when what happened to Lebanon last week, what happened in Beirut. We have the entire world getting together to send the resources and help for the places. So we have that spark inside of us. why do we need to wait for a tragedy to be acting? Why don't we do that on a daily basis? Why don't we leave or allow that spark that we have on our hearts work on us and towards others on a daily basis? And the answer for that is pride, selfishness, self-interest. If we work against those values, this spark and this light will be shining up on us and towards others on a daily basis. And that's exactly what God is expecting from us. Calamities enable them to develop the sentiments of self-denial, self-detachment, and love for their neighbors if they are not dominated by selfishness. So when we see that, and also it's important to understand that these happenings have a reason. They will come, that we're not going to need a calamity or any kind of a destruction to be helping our neighbor, our next door neighbor, or whoever are in need. We're going to be acting towards that on a very natural way, as exactly as God's expecting from us. So far, I've been bringing to all of us the basic concepts that we can find on the Spiritist book. I would say this is a kind of a doctrinary part of our talk, of our study today. Now, I would like to leave the Spiritist book aside for a while and start to look into this situation on the practical meanings and the practical teachings that we can take to our life. It's very, very important that every time that we do a study on a Spiritist book, on the gospel according to Spiritism, that we try to extract the meaning and the purpose for our daily lives. Because if you're just studying to know what is this about, but we're doing nothing towards our behavior and how we act towards others, this study means nothing. We got to study and bring this knowledge and this information to ourselves, as we can change ourselves on a practical way, so we can really, in a practical way, be better persons and be helping others also in a practical way. We are not leaving this incarnation. We are not having this opportunity right now just because we needed to study and we needed to know the things about the gospel or the teachings from the Spiritist doctrine or so. No. We are here to evolve based on our experiences. Experiences means action, attitudes, doing, going out and helping others. So every time that we do a study like this, it's important that we extract the real action, meaning, and value from the lesson. So far, we were watching and looking at the Spiritist book, some pictures and comparisons, so we can have a better idea on the concept. Now, let's try to see how can we bring this to our daily lives and apply that on our knowledge and the things that we needed to do and to learn ourselves. I would like to start to bring the concepts on our own lives and do this with this question over here. Destructive calamities. I would like to start to compare the collective calamities with the individual calamities as well. What we can say is, how are the examples that we can give about the oops, I did something wrong over here. Okay, about the collectives calamities. A hurricane is a collective calamity. An earthquake, a shakes, is also a tsunami, a flood. These are collective calamities and destructions that can happen to the entire society. So the collective flagellants have a physical and social impacts on a society as well. Okay? So, but we also can compare that to the individual calamities or the individual destruction that we may face and we may go on once in a while. We can have a job loss situation. that we're going to be impacted. We can have some material goods and deeds that we had being taken away for whatever reason, because we lost everything, because we were robbed, because we lost this for our partners or for something else. But all the material goods that we had were taken away somehow. Another calamity that we can go through, it's an impact of a distant event, especially for us that we have families and relatives back in Brazil, and something happened over there and we can do nothing. First, because of the distance, and secondly, because of the situation that we are living right now, that we can even take a flight back to Brazil and try to help someone. So we have to be dealing with this impotent feeling that we may have, because we cannot do nothing to help any other one. Something that happens in our lives that wash away the excess of possessions and the material the goods that we may have on our lives. So these are individual calamities. The individual flagellums and calamities and destructions that we may face have an impact on our moral values and affect the individual, affect ourselves, inviting us to review and to renew all the individual process that we may have, and try to go towards the annihilated progress destinations that we all have. So the collective calamities affect society and affect and have physical impacts on the way, on the environment that we live. The individual capacity, the individual calamity affects us as ourselves, as individuals, and it's an invitation to renew and to review and to renew how we are facing life and the aspects that we need to change on our lives. If we go back to the beginning of our talk today, on the second or third slide, if I'm not mistaken, it says over there, haven't we stated that destruction is necessary for the moral regeneration of spirits? This applies for both collective, but especially to the individual calamities, to accomplish in a few years what would otherwise require in many, many centuries to achieve. There is a passage on the book 2,000 years ago, dictated by the Spirit of Emmanuel and channeled by Francisco Chico Xavier. On that passage, Jesus says to Emmanuel, it's within your power to choose if you want to follow me now or on the following centuries with the pain that would be bringing to you by then. Something like this. I know exactly the phrase in Portuguese, maybe in English it has a different wording over here, but the meaning is this. Jesus told it to Emmanuel, you can choose now to follow me as I am here in front of you, or you can choose to follow me later after all the pain that we're going to be feeling because you are not making the right decision as we speak. So the destruction, the calamity can come to accomplish in a few years what would otherwise require in many centuries. That's exactly what happened to Emmanuel. It took him quite a few centuries to rebuild his life and go back to the exactly point he was when he was facing Jesus on that passage. So it's up to us to face these destructions that we may have on our lives nowadays and see how we're going to be reacting towards that. Are we going to be just sitting down and complaining about it? Or are we going to reevaluate ourselves, see the teachings and the lessons that we needed to apply and go for it? So it's up to each one of us to make the decision and make that call as we needed to. Actually, after we see these destructive calamities, I would like to bring something that internet nowadays, there is a lot of things out there which is not even worth it to open or to see. But there's quite a few things that brings us knowledge and information, which is quite feel interesting. I would like to share with you guys something that I came across a few months ago. Exactly when I was first preparing this study, I came through it's a fact. And I would like to share this with you because I think there's a huge learning experiences over here. It's a nice picture, huh? It's so beautiful, so kind. That's this is Shrek, the sheep. I'm not kidding. It's true. This is a fact. If you go to the internet and to Google and everything, you can check the veracity of the trueness of this history that I'm talking to you guys. The name of this ship is Shrek. Shrek, she became very, very famous a few years back when she was first found in one of the caves, in some caves back in New Zealand. This ship, she was lost for about 6 to 7 years. She ran away from her pastor. She just put herself inside a cave, and she was living totally solitary, totally by herself during this time period. So, of course, during this time, her womb grew without anyone there to share it. So no one was taking care of her. When she was finally found and sheared, her wool weighed an incredible 60 pounds. Most sheep have a fleece weighing just under 10 pounds, with a few exceptions that usually weighs on a maximum of 15 pounds. So she was carrying pretty much 4 to 6 times more weight than she usually would be if she would be guided, if she would be taken care by her pastor. So it's this guy, which is in the picture, is the one who make this professional wooling, who take it away, all of this weight, all of this wool out of her. So for 6 years, Shrek carried 6 times the normal weight of his fleece. This brings to my mind the passage from the New Testament when Jesus compared himself to a shepherd, and his followers are his sheep. Maybe it will sound strange, but I think Shrek is very much like a person who knows Jesus Christ, but has gone astray, decided not to follow, decided to run away. I don't think that these teachings or the way that this guy is guiding me, it doesn't fit me. I don't like his words. I don't know. For some reason, we know Jesus, we were allowed it, and we were able to get in touch with his teachings and his guidance, but we decided not to follow through. So if we avoid the constant refinement of Christ's character, we will accumulate extra weight in this world, a weight we do not have to bear. If we do not allow our shepherd to guide us and take care of us, we're gonna be accumulating a weight over our shoulders that we don't have to carry, and secondly, and most importantly, we may not be prepared to carry. It's important to remember that once we accept the guidance and the leadership of Jesus or any other spiritual leader, we're going to have on our shoulders just the weight that we are able to carry. God will never, ever allow us to carry on a weight that we are not prepared to do it or to face it or to carry on our shoulders. But if we decided to abandon this guidance and this leadership, we might accumulate in a weight that we might not support, that we might fall down on our knees because it's way too much weight, way too much pressure over us. When Shrek was found, a professional sheep shearer took care of Shrek's fleece in 28 minutes. Shrek's 60 pounds fleece was finally removed. All it took was to return home to his shepherd. I believe Christ can lift the burdens we carry if we at least stop hiding. He can scrape off our fleece, that is, our self-imposed bales, brought in by our good shepherd. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart, and you shall find a rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And this passage is in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verses 28 to 30. So, how can we embrace those many changes that are going on from us? Are we going to be hiding ourselves in a cave, running away from the leadership and the guidance that we can trust from Jesus or any other spiritual leader that we decided to follow? Or are we going to be submitting ourselves for his sweet and calm leadership and guidance. If we decided to follow Jesus, I can guarantee you that we're gonna be helped with all this weight that we might be carrying on our shoulders right now. But we, most of the time, we decided to take our problems and the solution of our problems on our own hands. That we may assume or presume that we know better than Jesus and God. And we decide to do things on our own way, which most of the time is not exactly the right way to do the things because we are not prepared yet. But if we submit ourselves for this sweet and kind leadership, which will be guiding us through our problems, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light, we can trust in someone that can guide us through all of these problems that we may have. So once we learn this, and when we say this situation with the Shrek, there's another concept and another idea that I would like to relate or make a correlation between what is going on right now and how can we change the way that we see these calamities and these tragedies around us. So if we submit ourselves to Jesus' leadership, we are not going to be carrying the weight that we have over us. Another thing that I would like to make another comparison is about the photosynthesis process. What is the photosynthesis? The photosynthesis, it's a process that plants use energy and sunlight to turn a gas called carbon dioxide and water into sugar. Plants then use this sugar to grow. At the same time, plants produce a gas called oxygen as an waste product, which is lucky for us and other animals because we need oxygen to breathe. So the plants use the sunlight or the light of the sun to take something that is not useful, the carbon dioxide, plus the water that we can extract or they can extract from the soil, make a transformation, transform those ingredients into sugar, which is going to be fueling them for growth, and releasing oxygen, which is a side product or a byproduct of this photosynthesis, which will help the other animals which are living around this plant. So using this process, I would like to bring this concept, which is, it's not the spiritism, it's just something that I think it can help us to understand better the process that we can go through as we face some adversities or calamities or tragedies on our lives, which I would call the spiritual photosynthesis from ourselves. How can we compare the sunlight? We can compare that to the light of Jesus, his teachings, his words, his examples, the way that he behaved himself over 2,000 years ago. The carbon dioxide, which is something bad for the environment, are the challenging experiences that we may have or that we may be facing at this moment. The water, which is something that the plant extracts from the soil, it's available for them, can be the knowledge that we already have of God's laws and Jesus' teachings. The sugar for growth, which is the result of the photosynthesis process for the plants, are the inner transformation process that we're going to be going through. It's also a growing process. It's also an evolvement, a progress, a growth that we are allowing ourselves to go through. And the oxygen, which is the byproduct the plant releases into the atmosphere, the oxygen will be our new attitude and behavior as an example to others. Because as we change our values, as we change the way that we're behaving, we are impacting other people in the society around us. So we're going to be starting to give good examples to others, which is going to be beneficial for them. The plant itself, when they release the oxygen, they are not taking advantage out of this because they do not use the oxygen. The oxygen is something else that they give it away for others, for humans, for animals. The same thing on us. As we change behavior, we start to behave better. We start to make better choices, better decisions. We start to be a better person. We're going to be impacting other people as well. We're not going to be taking direct impact or benefit out of this, but we're going to be helping other people as well. So on the spiritual photosynthesis, we apply Jesus' light and knowledge, and our knowledge to a somehow painful or challenging experience to transform these experiences in learning and changing behavior. Our new attitude is our contribution to improve and advance people and society around us. These are practical things that we can do. These are concepts and ideas that is not abstract. These are reality. These are things that are expected from us. Taking all of these experiences that we are going through, analyzes in the context that we are going through at the moment, take it out the learning and the teachings that we needed to use the teachings for a new behavior, for a new example, and start over again, going further and going one step higher on our evolution process. All of these that we're talking about, these are practical things. The Shiraki concept and idea, we should stop running away from this guidance and from these moral laws that we have available to us. If we would let us to be guided and following Jesus' teachings, we are not going to be carrying a weight that we are not supposed to. If you use these challenging and painful experiences as an way, as an instrument to evolve and grow on ourselves, we're going to be doing something practical to our lives. So we're going to be using all of these, I would say, painful and bad experiences as opportunities and tools to evolve and to progress. We have to destruct it first in order to bring something new, more evolved, in a better way, and a better concept. All of these tragedies that goes with us, they have a purpose, they have a meaning, giving us the opportunity to deconstruct, so we can rebuild ourselves much better, just like Benjamin Franklin said on his epitaph. Also, in order to coming to an ending, coming to a closing on our talk, I would like to bring this other idea and concept, which I saw in the beginning of the year, right after these tragedies and calamities that were going on in Australia. These are two pictures taken. These pictures were taken back in January. The fire in Australia happened last year, November, December 2019. Those two pictures and a few others that we had were taken back in January 2020. So just a few, I would say, few weeks after the big fire and everything. And then some biologists and some naturalists in Australia, they were interviewed because that was kind of weird and strange to see a renewal and a rebirth of this nature so fast on top of all of this destruction. And they asked them, is this recovery normal? And they said that the answer from these biologists and from these naturalists from Australia says, yes, it's pretty normal. First, because nature itself, the plants itself, as they've been experimenting those fiery experiences for many millennia, their seeds are capable of, when they drop the seeds on the floor, the seeds go in the floor and they are ignited by the heat. It's not something that some of the seeds, for example, they are ignited their growth process by water, by humidity, by sunlight, by something. These seeds, they are ignited by the extremely heat. So once we have those fires and the heat starts to reach the floor or the ground, that's when the seeds started to sprout and to grow up and everything. So they are prepared for that. So if we let Christ guide us and we follow his guidance, when destruction comes and affect us, we're going to be already prepared to start to sprout and regrow ourselves, because we are expecting the destruction. Somehow we will understand the destruction as a part of our evolvement process. But the most important thing that the biologists and naturalists said about this rapid regrowth on these plants. The second and most important reason why the plants recover so quickly, it's because the growth conditions are optimal after a fire for small seedlings, due to the ample light and nutrients released from ash. So what happens? The seeds which are in the floor, as the fire destructed pretty much everything, the light that was coming from the sun that was blocked because of the trees that it used to have in the past will not allow the seeds to grow. So as the fire destructs everything, the light comes such in a way that will ignite and help those seeds to fortify themselves. And what else was destructed, and the ashes that fell on the floor, these are the ingredients, these are the nutrients that the plants will use to grow and start their process all over again. How can we bring this to our lives? Once we lost everything, once we have a situation that will oblige us or obligate us to face new circumstances, new things, new homes, new whatever we have to face, we have nothing to lose because we lost already everything. Whatever we do, we have an open field just to start to rebuild and reconstruct all over again. There is nothing that we are attached to that will hold us back for a new future. As we went through these experiences, as we learned it, and we started to detach it from the material things, everything that we're going to be doing is going to be something new. It's going to be something that we, especially when we start to do that again, we will learn not to be so much attached to what we used to have, or not to depend on some other people's and decisions to make our own happiness. We're going to be holding ourselves accountable for our own happiness. We're going to realize that our happiness, it not depends on the government or the spouses or kids or sons or whatever. It depends only on us and how we face the challenges that we may have on our lives. So after a destruction, after a fire like that, after a calamity like that, we have the perfect conditions to restart ourselves as a brand new individual, as a brand new opportunity. So once we realize all of these and we face all of these destructions that we might face in some way in our lives in the near future, or maybe in a new incarnation, we already know on a practical means how can we stand up for ourselves and restart all over again. It's important to say also, it's not failure. Most of us, we are afraid of this situation because we are afraid of a fail, and we are afraid of a failure. We don't fail on situations like that. These are calls from God to allow us to restart on a better condition. Maybe the way or the pathway that we were following were not the good ones or the best ones for ourselves. So we are invited by life to restart on a new circumstances, based on a different values, on a different prospects and different targets for ourselves. It's not a failure. Situations like these does not mean failure, means a great and a huge opportunity to start all over again on a better pathway. And so that's what we'd like to share with you guys today. Thank you so very much for all the opportunity, for everything that we used to that we had the opportunity to bring. If anyone has any questions or would like to bring anything to contribute to the study, you guys are more than welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Alex. That was so incredible. It's the idea that we still have of not completely understanding the cycles of life, not understanding that we cannot build up unless we remove the old. And sometimes the old means also all these changes that we see happen in nature. Many of them, unfortunately, that shouldn't have been happening, but they are happening just because of our behaviors. We could not aggravate that so much, but other things that are so important to go through. We do have some questions here. Let me see the first one. What is the best way to allow Jesus' guidance in our lives? Thank you, Glaucio.
Excellent question, Glaucio. Not a hard thing to do. We don't have to have a MIT degree or a Harvard degree for that. It's just necessary that we open our hearts to it, that we accept that we are not as good as we think that we are still child on the evolutionary process, and that we still need guidances to ourselves. The main difficulty that we have to accept Jesus and let Jesus guide us, it's our pride, because we think that we know better than anybody else. We think that we know better than God. So our pride is the one that does not allow us to accept and follow the guidances that we have from Jesus. So the best way that we have to allow Jesus guiding ourselves, it's humbleness. Is to accept that we know nothing yet, that we need his guidance as a master, as a teacher, as an older brother, and he will conduct us to another level. They will come that we're not going to be needing Jesus' guidance anymore, because we're going to be reaching on a stage or a state of evolution that his guidance was not going to be needed anymore. Maybe we're going to need somebody else, some other masters and guides to keep us evolving and growing. But as of now, for the moment that we are, the best way to allow Jesus guide us, it's being humble enough to recognize that we need help.
Thank you. So from Kirsten, thank you, Kirsten. If someone is trying to restart and rebuild after so many struggles or tragedies, but isn't sure where to start, what would you recommend?
Follow your heart.
Yeah.
Follow your heart. It's the best way to find the answers. And I do understand, after so many struggles and difficulties, to following our heart, sometimes we don't even trust what we were feeling and what you were saying. But how can we work the environment around us to make these decisions or trying to find the right answers? Very first thing, connect ourselves to God and to Jesus through prayer. Connecting ourselves and asking for the guidance, for the help, for the enlightenment that we may need, for the inspiration that we might need on that moment. And on a reflection process, let our heart talk to us. When we listen to our heart, we'll be able to find the right answers for all the questions that we may have. The other way is, what would Jesus do on my place? I would say, even after all the struggles that he had, and he had plenty of the struggles during his material and earthly life, he was always condescending, humble, calm, serene, keeping his faith on God's commandments, and accepting what God has reserved for him. All of this. So if we decided to, or if we needed some guidance, first the prayer, second, asking to our hearts, what are the answer, or what are the pathways that we should follow? The answer will come.
Thank you, Alex. Yasko, hi, Yasko is saying, well, great talk, Alex. I wonder when humanity evolved from living in this planet heavily based on materialism to the regeneration, the calamities, especially the collective ones, will diminish.
I would say, on my perspective, I would say yes, they will diminish. They are not going to be extinguished forever, because we live on a material planet yet. We're still finishing its formation. So we might have an earthquake here, a tsunami over there, some other nature happenings around the world, until the entire Earth, the planet Earth, solidifies and finishes this transformation process. This is one thing. So we still need a few happenings on this aspect. The other aspect is this. We are living on a stage of a trial and atonement to regeneration world. regeneration word, it's not a perfect word. It still have struggles. Love will prevail. Love will start to dominate the feelings and the environment that we're living, but it's not a perfect word. So we may have a few other happenings here and there. We may have a few other calamities happening from some time to some time, but maybe not as frequent as we have nowadays. Once we reach on a stage that we don't need these calamities to be pushing us up towards the goodness that is inside of us, then someday this will finish. But as of now, and maybe during this transition process, we might have a few calamities going on, but in a much less numbers that we have today.
Okay. Some people use calamities for personal growth, but others turn back to their worst instincts. What will happen to them as the world changes?
Well, they have two options: or they change, or they change. All of us, it's the law of progress. We are all created humbles and ignorance. Ignorance, not stupid. Ignorance as a lack of knowledge. And we were created towards the progress. So the law of progress will apply to each and every one of us. If these calamities, we turn back the calamities as an opportunity to grow, something will happen to us in the future that will reconduct us to the evolvement process and the pathway. So if they decide to turn their backs right now, something else will happen in the future, and they will bring us, they're going to be bringing them to the evolutionary process. The only thing that may happen, we cannot guarantee that if they turn back the opportunities, they turn their backs to the opportunities now, the new opportunity that we'll have will be here on Earth, maybe in another planet, but other opportunities will come to them for they change.
Okay. Regina, how can we improve the conditions of our metaphorical soil, water, light, etc., to facilitate spiritual photosynthesis? Thanks for sharing this wonderful metaphor.
I think that what starts the process of the photosynthesis is the sunlight. What starts our spiritual photosynthesis? Jesus' light. As much as we connect to their light, as much as we are open to that light to enlighten our minds, ideas, and heart, feelings, the most we're going to be able to transform ourselves and use these metaphorical, it's going to be to facilitate our spiritual photosynthesis, because that's the process that starts everything. We may have the water, we may have the challenges, we may have everything going on, but if we are not connected to Jesus' light, the process of the spiritual photosynthesis will never start. So the more that we give attention to this light, the more will facilitate it for us to go through this process.
Great. Kirsten, again, my forever question I always ask is, what are ways we can better manage the stress and the strong emotions that come along with challenging situations?
Well, this is not my answer. That's the answer from, I would say, pretty much all of the great speakers and the great leaders that we have in the Spiritist movement. Prayer and meditation. Prayer and meditation. And if you cannot do that, do meditation and prayer. It also works.
Okay, great. Let me see if we have more questions. I don't think we do. Okay, Alex, if you would like to say some, few words for us after, the final words, that would be wonderful too.
Well, actually, Josara, I just want to say thank you so very much. It's for me, it's a great, great pleasure and a great honor to be able to participate on this Saturday morning's talk. Thank you for the opportunity of the work to contribute somehow. Every time that we do a study like that, we are the ones that we learn the most, because we have the opportunity to study and to prepare ourselves to be giving this talk. So I just want to say thank you so very much. And if you need me from any other contribution in the future, I'm all here. It will be my pleasure.
Oh, that's wonderful, Alex. I think it's so important what we all have been doing here in the U.S. Joining forces, and especially during those times, and everyone has been feeling a lot this situation of not coming together in our spiritual pursuit as we used to do, being able to go to our spiritual centers, etc. So it's wonderful that we have been using this mechanism to try together with our friends, our collaborators, and be able to spread this knowledge and to fill this void, especially now that we are so much in need of this spiritual support and spiritual guidance. And so it was actually with this aim that we thought that at least once a week we could do our contribution as well. We know that many centers, actually the majority of them, have been having their virtual meetings. They continue offering their study groups, their connection with people, with their community. You can also, we have a list of gatherings only in English, for instance, in our website, spiritist.us. And so we will continue to do that, and we will hold your work. So we will soon call you back to join us again. Start thinking about a new topic.
I will for sure. Thank you so very much for the opportunity, Jussara.
Great.
Yeah, and hopefully we are praying and waiting that all of this pandemic goes away, and we can open the doors for you guys to come over here and give a talk to us as a presential talk in Florida again. We miss you guys.
Oh, we miss you too. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us and for joining us. And next week, we will have another presentation. This time, we will have Dr. Tanya Stevanin from the UK. She's going to be giving to us a very good talk, so don't miss it as well, okay? Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. And we are going to finish with a prayer of gratitude, elevating our thoughts, uniting our hearts, to show our gratitude to God for all the blessings we have just received, for this opportunity. And may we be here, gather together again next week to continue this process of inner enlightenment, this process of becoming this new being that we so much want to become. May the good spirits, our brother Jesus, be with us and inspire us throughout this week. Thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you next Saturday.